Good morning. It's Saturday, the 7th of July. It's 10:05 in the morning Central Time, and it's time for Shootin' the Breeze. I'm your host, TakersMinion. My co-host this week or this day is stuck on a train between Liverpool and London. Hopefully, he'll make it before the end of the show. However, I was able to round up and lasso a co-host for this week. You might know him. He's the veritable Biff Kensington III from Connoisseurs of Wrestling. Good morning, Biff.
Well, good morning there, sexy thing. How are you?
Oh, Jesus. Oy,
Oh,
that's the last thing I needed to hear this morning, as tired as I am.
boy, aren't you glad that you found me this morning?
Oh, it's better than trying to go an hour alone, talking to a wall.
We'll test that theory here this morning. So
Mm.
I'm doing a lot better than I was. It's been an up and down week. Obviously, I think people know a little bit about what's been going down with yours truly. But I am up this morning. I am semi-functional, and I figured I would come hang out and uh, stir the pot with some wrestling talk. No better way to spend a Saturday morning than with my good buddy Taker's Minion here on Shooting Da Breeze.
Yeah, you get to be a little bit more relaxed
A
here.
little bit more relaxed, a little bit more of the free biff, the Berkeley biff. We'll call it Berkeley biff, not the Southern Plantation owner biff.
Yes. So this week has been was a veritable mixed bag of shit and good matches as usual.
Seems to be a recurring trend in WWE these days.
Which I'm not understanding why. Raw has actually been pretty good the last 3-4 weeks, which has been shocking to me in a sense. I just don't see what the stakes are for Lashley v. Roman is at Extreme Rules.
If Dave Meltzer is to believe, it's going to get hijacked because it's going to be the main event, and people are not going to be very up for that.
That's the thing. That's another question. Why isn't the title? Why isn't the WWE title main eventing? Do they think that lowly of AJ?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know at this point. It's not only is the Universal title not around and thus kind of devalued in a lot of fans' eyes, but they've done a good job turning the WWE Championship into a mid card title on these pay per views. So I don't know what their goal is. If they're trying to kill the value of the title, they're doing a great job of it.
Wait a minute. There's a title called the Universal.
That's the rumor. It's never
Oh
actually been
wait, oh wait.
spotted.
It's around somebody by the name of Brock Lesnar, right?
I thought it was Trent Reznor.
Oh, I don't. Oh wait, isn't he that? Oh, okay. He's that guy's got the loudmouth with him.
The
Paul
40,
something.
the 42nd president of the United States. Yeah.
Paul something. What the hell's his name? Oh, Paul Heyman. Jeez.
Oh, the history guy. Yeah, he was talking about Lexington Concord and the USS Intrepid in the American Revolution. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
That was the longest smartass train I've ever heard on this show. We were just complete smartasses there.
hey,
I'm proud of myself for that.
we're
I'm proud
good
of
at it.
you.
We're good at it. You know.
Yeah, that just shows you how ass backwards they are with their titles right now. Like, there's only one title in the entire company that has actually been semi-protected and treated well this year. I
That's
don't even. Yeah,
the IC title, which actually started which actually started middle part of last year. Actually, at the WrestleMania last year.
yeah. Well, it's been restoring itself over the span of 3 to 4 years, but here in the last 2 years, it's really kind of taken on that old school number two vibe. Like, there was this long period of time where the Intercontinental title was like an opening card act for, scrubs, basically. Your Santino Morellas, who, while entertaining, were never going to be a serious champion. Cody had a run or two with it where he was kind of trying to restore it, but here over the last 2 or 3 years, you've really seen the prestige of that title just ebb up and up. And then with Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler having a 30-minute Iron Man match, that's everybody's main event on next Sunday. That's just the way it's going to be, I think.
I have a feeling those two are going to steal the show somehow. But let's just hope they don't put it on the freaking pre-show.
If they put that match on the pre-show, they deserve to fail. I'm sorry. There's just no other way to put it.
What do you put on the pre-show?
The shows are so damn long as it is. Do we even need pre-shows anymore? Honestly.
I don't know.
Maybe do like a 15-minute pre-show before the actual show itself starts.
Yeah.
It's like you've got your own network now. You're not beholden to the pay-per-view companies anymore, hardly. Just you can start whenever the freak you want to. I don't know. Maybe put one of the women's title matches on the pre-show because both of those women's title matches are complete placeholders until SummerSlam.
Yeah. I mean, Raw was Raw. Decent as it could be. There was nothing really that stuck out for me on Raw.
In a good way or a bad way, or either way?
Both. Good and bad. I mean, I didn't see anything really, really bad or terrible about Raw this week. And I didn't see anything bad or good about it this week, really. I mean, there were, they moved some stories along. We had Dolph get help from Drew McIntyre once again after he was ejected from ringside, which is, if you eject someone from ringside, damn it, then they shouldn't come back.
It feels like a lazy way to get out of it.
Yeah.
Like uncreative, which, say what you will about it's easy to pick on creative because of the lack of originality and the repetitive matches. It makes you feel like, things are just kind of stuck in place, and it's easy to pick on creative. It's really Vince McMahon who's making the final calls here. You give Vince the credit when things go right, and you need to blame Vince when it goes wrong. And there are people who hated this week's episode of Raw. There are people who liked it, people who are indifferent towards it. I don't think you're going to find too many fans, one way or the other, that would argue the fact that there's just nothing going on in WWE right now.
No,
it feels like it's in stasis. It's like nothing's happening.
It's the doldrums going into SummerSlam. That's what it feels like anyway. It's just like the slow time going into SummerSlam before they start to ramp up between SummerSlam and Survivor Series.
Well, see, even between SummerSlam and Survivor Series the last couple of years, there's been periods where it felt like nothing was going on. Like that 2013 to 2015 window between October and December, it just felt dead. The last year they did a pretty decent job with Survivor Series, but I never understood the mentality of WWE. It's like the only time of year that really matters to them is Royal Rumble to the day after WrestleMania. And then after that, you have like a little oasis in the desert in August in SummerSlam, and that's it. And nothing else on this show matters. And it just frustrates me as a fan because you see all of the talent that they have. They can put on a good show. There's nothing in the world stopping them from having a good show.
That's either brand.
Oh, yeah. It's a company-wide main roster, and England just scored again, by the way. But for all of you that are watching the World Cup while we talk. So.
Yeah. I'm not paying much attention to it. I'm not a big football fan, or soccer, they call it here in the United States, but football everywhere else. I'm not a big fan of it.
It's soccer, you assholes.
Now you got to get the Brits going. Now don't do that. We don't need I don't need Redcoat showing up at my door. They can show up at yours all they want, but like I said, I'm not a big fan of it. So
I live near where Mel Gibson shot the Patriot. I'll be fine.
If you say so.
Okay. Anyway, but no. Going back to the point that you were bringing up, it's just this malaise. It just feels like there's no overarching story. SmackDown is at least a little better in the sense there is a clear number one guy, AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't have a top heel to go against right now because Nakamura has kind of been, de-emphasized a little bit. I'm guessing Samoa Joe is going to be his next big challenger. I think that's obviously the direction they're going to go for SummerSlam, and Rusev is just kind of a placeholder to get you there.
Yeah, and I think Rusev's going to do the job once again.
Oh yeah, there's.
I don't think they're ever going to let Rusev have the big belt.
No, and you can argue with people over whether or not that's appropriate or not. I think they really blew it with Rusev.
Oh yeah,
I think they waited too long to kind of take advantage, and honestly I feel like the groundswell of support behind him has dissipated a lot since the winter. Like over the winter months, he was the hottest thing in WWE. He was getting chants everywhere.
Oh yeah,
and now it just kind of feels like he's just another part of the show. So, it's a little bit too little, too late as far as I'm concerned. But Rusev is entertaining enough where he's always going to have a place on the card. It's not like a Zack Ryder where he's going to disappear and be a non-factor. I think Rusev can find a role for himself, but that's the MO of WWE. It's wasting golden opportunity after golden opportunity. So, what can you do?
I mean, they had a match on Raw that actually was pretty decent. Since Nia Jax has had the match with Ronda, that was one of her best matches ever, or her best match ever. And then with the kayfabe injury that she suffered, and then she had the match against Mickie James this week.
Yes,
with Alexa Bliss and not in Mickey's corner, and Natalya coming out on the other side to kind of neutralize Alexa. Nia actually looked pretty good in that match. But what I don't seem to understand is that Mickie James doesn't have the history of being able to take someone out like that. Neither does Alexa for that matter, but why are they making Nia sell that she's being destroyed? It's if Nia is this irresistible force, then she should be no-selling everything.
I have a controversial take on this, and I know I can tell you right now that it's not a popular take, but I believe that it explains the problem with the women's division on both shows. WWE has a problem, and it's a problem that they're not familiar with, so I don't know that they know how to handle it. They have too much talent in the women's division. You've got too much talent, too much transcendent talent, I would argue. Bayley and Sasha on Raw have the ability to be transcendent talents, both in their characters and especially their in-ring work. Ronda Rousey has immense star power, and she apparently has the goods when it comes to in-ring work. She's looked very good in limited doses. On SmackDown, you've got Asuka, Charlotte Flair, you've got Becky Lynch, you've got a bunch of young women on the way up on both brands. You got a Sonya Deville over on SmackDown. You've got Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan, Liv Morgan, Ember Moon. I mean, you have just this wealth of talent, but they don't know how to manage that talent because they've never had this problem of an excess of talent. And honestly, the only solution that I could see that would solve this problem is if you had a show dedicated to the women, where the women have a chance to get more screen time more opportunities than they're getting right now, because still, even though you've got all of this talent in the women's division on either side of the brand split, they're still kind of getting the same amount of time that they used to. You know, you're getting 1 or 2 women's matches a show if you're lucky. And there's just not enough time to really showcase all of the talent that you have. And I think, too, you know, when there's a mismanagement of talent, that's when you're getting these options like Alexa Bliss. I don't have anything personally against Alexa Bliss. She's not the first choice for women's champion that I would have, because they're more talented performers. Same thing with Carmella. You know, Carmella is not the most talented performer, and I'm somewhat married.
But Biff, they can cut the 20-minute promo.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt. It's I can hope all day long, but it doesn't mean they're going to change. You know, it's just they're stuck in their ways. They have a mindset that it's still 2008, when in 2018 the roster is capable of so much more. And that's not just a women's division problem. That's a tag division problem. That's a mid-card problem. It's a main event problem. There's a wealth of talent there that could solve all of the shortcomings they have. There's no reason for the tag division on Raw to be as weak as it is right now.
No.
None whatsoever. Especially with the talent they have on that show.
Let's take a look at the tag team division on Raw for a minute and see who it all. Let's try to name everybody that's involved. Let's see. We got the leader of worlds, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, as champions.
Yep.
You've got the Revival, the Ascension, the Fashion Police. Who else?
Authors of Pain.
Who I think should have a rocket strapped to their asses.
Yes. Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler have done a little bit in the tag division, but they're mostly kind of a duo that are competing in singles.
Yeah.
But that's still a possibility.
And McIntyre is doing his impersonation of Diesel, as you said.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to the B team.
Yep. You got to think the B team. There's a lot of comedy. That's what Rawls and Heath Slater and Rhino.
Yeah.
You got to count them in the mix. You got Titus Worldwide.
Yeah, with Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil.
That's a big problem right there. You have so many comedic tag teams.
Too many.
Yeah. I mean, your tag champions are basically hovering between, you know, comedy and just weirdness because of Woken Matt, and then Bray Wyatt's always had that kind of edge to him. But the B team is pure comedy. Heath Slater and Rhino, pure comedy. The Ascension is pure comedy now. Titus Worldwide is comedy. Fashion Police is comedy. You know,
Revival's the only serious team out there.
Revival and Authors of Pain.
Yeah,
Authors of Pain are. Yeah, they're
I still say bring Paul back. That with you know, Paul Ellering with them would be brilliant.
I always assumed that it was because Paul Ellering didn't want to travel, but apparently that's not true, and they just made a judgment call to separate them from Paul.
The thing is I don't think that they want Vince doesn't want managers, really.
And that's the stupidest freaking way of going about it. I can't stand that mindset.
And I don't think it's so much Vince. I think it's that Kevin Dunn's got him convinced.
I don't understand why, though. Why are they so adverse to managers?
Because they are a wrestling thing. Remember, Kevin Dunn is trying to get an Emmy for this shit. It's a sports entertainment. You say wrestling around him and he kicks you out of the truck. Wrestling to Kevin Dunn is a bad word.
Would you not agree that 1990s WWF, like 1990, 1991 WWF, that was sports entertainment too at that point? There were all sorts of managers in there. You know, it's like managers can transcend the boundaries of wrestling and sports entertainment.
Yeah.
I don't understand why all of a sudden managers are this verboten, you know, subject where you're not allowed to be a manager. Alexa Bliss was a great heel valet in NXT. she had that down pat.
Until she ran into Blue Pants.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what happened to, Blake and Murphy when they split Alexa away from them? They utterly collapsed. I mean, she made that tag team, and they were a solid tag team, and they were viable tag champions in the NXT because Alexa was great in her role. She was a great, snotty heel manager.
Mm-hmm.
Now they bring her up on the main roster and they make her champion. They try to put her in the role that Sasha Banks was made. Sasha Banks was put on this earth to fulfill the role that Alexa Bliss has been given. And there's nothing that Alexa gives you that Sasha doesn't give you tenfold. She's a better worker. She can talk just as well. Her character is just as defined. She is articulate. She's photogenic. She's talented. She's athletic. She's young. She gives you the total package.
And she's got great work on the mic.
Yeah. But
pardon the pun here, but she's the total package when it comes to an in-ring performer.
She really is. Sasha Banks, if I had a company of my own, I look at Sasha Banks, I think she's 25 or 26 years old now. I am building my women's division around Sasha Banks for the next decade. Because, she has the passion for the business. I'm not saying Alexa Bliss doesn't. I've never seen the passion from Alexa that I see from Sasha. You see Sasha, you see the things that she does in the ring, you can instantly pick out, okay, she's an Eddie Guerrero fan because she does this, or she wears that. You see the influences. You can tell she watches her tapes. That's why I love the Revival so much. The Revival, you watch their matches if you're a longtime fan, you see these different little ticks they pick up. They did a rocket launcher on this past Monday to Roman Reigns. It's like Midnight Express. That's a pure Midnight Express callback right there. They do, the Vegematic, the Double Goozle, or they do all sorts of these little old school tag team moves. You tell that there's a passion there. Like Sasha, she has passion. But you don't build around her. I don't understand why. Honest to God, I don't understand their hesitancy to build around Sasha Banks. If you use Alexa Bliss as the heel valet she was meant to be, you get all of her strengths and none of her weaknesses. You help out other talent, whether they're in the men's division, the women's division. That is WWE in a nutshell. They needlessly handcuff themselves by doing the worst possible thing. I don't get it. I never will get it. That's just the price of being a fan. If you're watching WWE for more than 10 minutes, you're just going to have to accept the fact that they're going to take victory and just completely turn it into defeat. And it's just the way it is. They turn chicken salad into chicken shit better than any company I've ever watched. And I used to watch WCW. It's like, for God's sake. I just, what can you say?
Not much.
They defend WWE all the freaking time, but it's been like that for 2 decades now. They screw the pooch every single time.
Well, yeah. Yeah, they do. And
I'm off my soapbox.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it's frustrating as a fan. As a fan of wrestling in general, that to see a company that has such a loaded roster, top to bottom, both men's and women, and they can't find their ass with both hands.
Yeah.
When it comes to booking, they don't have someone. I mean, they got Brian James, who does a wonderful job with the tag team. He does wonderful booking tag teams. He's great at it. But can't book a women's match worth a damn. Okay. I don't know who they've got on Raw as the head writer right now.
I have no idea. Ryan Ward, maybe? That's the name I always hear bandied about.
But the thing about it is that Ryan Ward was over on SmackDown, and it was great. They move him over to Raw as a writer, and all of a sudden he's booking hot garbage. Wait, whoa. Who's handcuffing this guy?
Because I think we know the answer, but
yeah, because if you look at the mixed match challenge, Dunn and Vince were not involved with it at all, except for putting the damn streak in there, which was a joke. That told everybody who was going to win the mixed match challenge at that point. Once they made the streak a part of it with Asuka and Miz, that told everybody, well, we already know who's going to win it now. When it should have been Team Little Big, because they were the team that was the hottest team going on at that point.
It's, if you try to rationalize what is inherently irrational, you'll go crazy. It's like trying to figure out why they do the things they do.
It's like trying to figure out why the sky is blue.
Well, okay, you mentioned a minute ago, Kevin Dunn wants to win an Emmy. All right, if you want to win an Emmy, then why are you doing things on the production side of things that make your show look so god-awful? Oh, like the on-screen graphics or the shaky cuts,
He's trying to sell the Impact.
Yeah, but it makes it worse. Anybody with a pulse can tell it's overproduced garbage now. It looks so bad. The on-screen graphics look so bad, and yet he might not be directly calling the action in the truck, but he is, the lead producer. He's the one that has the final say on how the show looks. Probably even more of a direct hand than Vince McMahon himself. So don't, I've heard people try to defend Kevin Dunn before. Don't tell me Kevin Dunn is an innocent bystander in this. Kevin Dunn and his vision for what the show should look like has been one of the greatest hang-ups to being a WWE fan. His vision is so stale and so backwards and so counterproductive to the roster they have. It's ridiculous that it's sterile. It's not interesting. It makes WWE feel old and crusty.
Yep.
And they already have been, since 2009, they've had a problem of feeling really gaudy.
Well, let me ask you this question, and I know this is going to hurt when I ask it.
Be gentle.
I want your opinion on a statement I'm about to make. Like I said, this is going to hurt, but you'll survive, I'm sure. What's happening with WWE and what they're doing with their television product is along a similar track of what Crockett did, is it not? They got a little stale, and people stopped tuning in to watch, and that was basically the end of them.
If we're talking strictly the on-air products, there are a lot of similarities. Now, obviously,
that's what I'm talking. I'm talking about strictly on-screen product.
Yeah. On-screen product, there's a lot of similarities. Now, obviously, with Crockett, there's a business component that exacerbates it. But, yeah, the on-screen issue, Dusty as a booker and Crockett kind of got burnt out heading into late 87, early 88. And there were some talent squabbles that were kind of affecting things too, but you could really tell, I would say, between the Great American Bash and Starrcade 88, there is a marked decline. And then it really becomes noticeable in the first months of 1989 before they went on their hot streak creatively. There's just, repetitive matches. It's storylines that you've seen for 3 or 4 years that are kind of being rehashed with different people. You just run out of things to say over time. That's why there's never been, a booker that's been in control of a promotion, for this length of time. Even Vern Gagne would shake up the system in the AWA from time to time. Vern had the final say, kind of like Vince does in WWF/WWE, but Vern would bring in people to help and kind of, shake things up. And Vince McMahon used to do that too. But it seems like
and let them go.
Yes.
Take the handcuffs off of them and let them go.
Yep. But ever since 2001, Vince McMahon has kind of taken point over everything. And I don't think it's any great shock that they've never recaptured the business that they were doing in 2001. That's 2001. They've never gotten that high again. Well, and you can directly correlate it to Vince taking control, I think.
It boils down to one thing and one thing only. What was it? April of 2001, the Monday Night War ended with WCW.
Yeah.
WCW was bought out. Thus endeth the competition. There has been no real threat to WWE since.
Yeah.
TNA, Impact, the Donner Party, as Fizz calls it. Yeah. Has
cold.
Tried.
That's cold, Fizz.
Has tried. And they have failed miserably. This new ownership group took it north of the border, and they seem to be doing a lot better. They seem to have made some strategic alliances with people and with promotions throughout the world, like NJPW, CMLL, AAA, to make themselves competitive against WWE. Granted, they got a long way to go, but they're slowly but surely getting there. Because I'm hearing great things about them. I haven't watched a TNA show in 5 years. And from what I understand, they're on Twitch and it's free, so I may go check it out because I'll be hanging around Twitch starting tonight for the next 15 days. But that's a whole other topic we'll get into a little bit later.
Oh, thank God for that, too. I know where you're going with that, but yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, if there was some promotion that was viable as competition to Vince on the same level, had a better production value, or I should say, not a better production value, but a production value that was similar to what WWE had, except for the shaking the cameras and all that other crap. And had bookers that would, book the talent as they know they can be booked and let the talent do what they need to do. I think it would take a lot of the demographic away from WWE and would actually threaten WWE. And that's what they need. They need to get a kick in the ass and get a kickstart to get this product back on track because it's way off track.
Look at the period of time. And we can actually do this because there's only a couple of points in the last 40 years where this has been the case. So it's easy to look at this. If I had to get you just as a knee-jerk reaction to tell me the hottest periods in the company's history, in the company being WWE, what would you say would be the hottest periods under Vince McMahon Jr.?
97 to 2001.
Okay, so the Attitude Era.
Exactly.
Okay, what would be the second hottest?
Believe it or not, the Ruthless Aggression era that came right afterwards.
You don't think the Hulkamania era of the mid-'80s?
Oh, it put them on the map and took them to nationwide status. So I'll give that's those are my top three. One is where it is. One will stay where it is, which is 97 to 2001. That was when Vince said, "Whoa, we're getting our asses kicked. Let's do something about this." And dug his heels in. And the problem that WCW had is they took a lot of the older talent from WWE and gave them these huge ass contracts and gave them all kinds of different, clauses and whatnot in their contracts that would save them from being being some of the top paid guys in the company.
Yeah. Well, you're touching
the old favored nation clause.
Yeah. Well, see, you're touching on the issue that I wanted to bring up, and I think you know where I'm going with it. Let's look at the period from 1984 to 1989 first, and then we can go into the Attitude Era because it's the same thing. 1984, Hulk Hogan comes on the scene. You get Roddy Piper that comes in, Bobby Heenan, Gene Okerlund on the production side of things, Paul Orndorff, Junkyard Dog. You have a wealth of talent that starts filtering in to the company. Mm-hmm. What is going on in wrestling at the same time the WWF is going national? Jim Crockett is taking off. The AWA has got a little mini resurgence going on with Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall and the Midnight Rockers and Doug Summers and Buddy Rose. And the tag scene, you have a little mini resurgence in Minneapolis. World Class, they're trying to go national. Mid-South is trying to go national. The wrestling scene is popping. There's a lot of competition.
Mm-hmm.
When does WWF's hot streak end? Between 1989 and 1990. By the time you get past WrestleMania 6, business has really fallen off, and the golden era is pretty much over.
Right.
What corresponds with that? Well, Jim Crockett, the last domino falls, and the NWA morphs into WCW and goes straight into the toilet for 5 years. There's no real competition for WWF between 1990 and 1995, and that's some of the weakest business they ever did. Now, fast forward, 95, 96, 97. WCW's getting hot. Mm-hmm. They have, cruiserweights coming in. It's given a new style of wrestling. ECW has got this underground buzz in the Northeast. It's really starting to get this cult following. WWF is in danger of losing the Monday Night War and getting their ass handed to them. Competition comes back. Vince is at his best. Voila. 1997, one of the best qualitative years they ever had. 98 and 99, two of the best business years they ever had. WWF in 2000, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest single year of any wrestling promotion ever. I just think that the quality of the wrestling, the storylines, and the excitement and the star power, even without Austin for most of that year, 2000 WWF was the peak. But look what happens in 01. ECW goes away, WCW goes away. And from the invasion angle on, it's a slow, gradual decline. From the end of the Attitude Era, even through the Ruthless Aggression Era, into the Reality Era, it's just been this slow degradation because Vince has never again had competition. Vince is at his best when he's being challenged.
Yep.
And as you pointed out, if there's nobody there to challenge him, Vince is just running in place. There's nobody to chase him. Vince is a businessman at heart. He loves to win the game.
And he's won the game, and right now he controls the game. So
he's nobody else to play with.
And he's going to sit there and mark time.
Yep. That's why he's going into football. That's why he's trying to start a movie studio.
He wants competition.
Yeah, he wants to win. He wants to win. He wants to expand his empire. He's looking for new battles to fight.
Exactly. I mean, there was talk there for a while when he got that $100 million or whatever it was he took out, sold of his stock of WWE and put it into his entertainment, this other company he has, complete separate entity from WWE altogether, that he was going to buy the Carolina Hurricanes and move them back to Hartford or somewhere up in the Northeast. There was talk.
I might have had to go beat him personally if he tried. But yeah.
Well, because I know the Carolina Hurricanes are on the market. They've been on the market for the last 2 years.
Well, they were sold. They did find a new owner, and he's actually done pretty good by them so far. I'm quite happy about that. We've made some good moves this summer for a runt of a team, so we'll see where it goes. But
yeah.
But the central premise is the same. He's always looking for that new challenge. That's what the XFL was in 2000, 2001. That's what the XFL will be in 2020. And
the thing about that is this. It's not going to be affiliated with WWE this time. I think he realized that was the biggest mistake he made, was making it too WWE-ish.
Can I ask you a question on that front? I want to get your opinion on that because I am of the opinion, and I'm not speaking from a business perspective. Lord knows I don't want to talk business right now, hardly, but that's an inside joke, obviously. But, when it comes to the XFL, Vince has started his new company, Alpha Entertainment, to handle the XFL. But do you think that it's going to matter? Like, Vince McMahon is so recognizable because of WWE that I feel like they're going to make the connection between the XFL and the WWE, regardless of how Vince tries to separate the two. I just feel like it's a natural connection that people are going to make, whether he wants them to or not.
It is. It's going to be a natural connection, yes, but it's not under the same company name. The first XFL was through WWE.
Right. On the business front, it's a separate entity. It's not going to
separate
affect
entity
WWE
altogether. It's probably, it's probably going to have a complete different feel to it than what the previous XFL did. You're not going to have Jim Ross and Jesse the Body Ventura down there on the in the booth calling games and using WWE euphemisms. Yeah. You're going to have actual football people in the position doing, football announcers and then color commentary folks doing the stuff in the booth. You have to. You cannot make it all about, the violence, because in today's times, violence when it comes to what's going on in the ring and what's going on in, regular NFL football, for that matter, the NFL, they're trying to curb the violence.
Yeah.
So you can't have the violent type of football anymore. There are some people out there that are old school, who want to keep it that way, but because of the general public becoming more and more aware of concussions and CTE and what it can do to the brain and the dementia it can cause, and Alzheimer's and all the other stuff, and the big name football players that have committed suicide from it, or the Chris Benoit thing in professional wrestling, for that matter. And I know that's a sore subject with a lot of people. I'm not condoning what he did to his wife and his son, but he was not of right mind. I'm not giving him a pass, but he has the brain of an 85-year-old man with severe Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yeah.
That was medically proven.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's... I look at it kind of like I look at boxing. I am a purist when it comes to boxing. I love old school boxing. From, the 50s and 60s all the way up into the 80s and early 90s. I just love watching old boxing matches when I can find them. But it's like, people look at the decline of boxing, and there's a lot of financial reasons for it, but there's also the health aspects. And it's the same thing that football's going through now. We know more now than we did then. And it will never take away from the passion that we have for, classic boxing or smash mouth football. You crave teams like the 85 Bears and the Monsters of the Midway, just that type of, slug the crap out of you defense. That's just something authentic and organic about football fandom. It's a passion that you have for it. But you balance that out between the recognition that, hey, these are human beings. And I don't want someone to cripple themselves or, lose their mental faculties just for my sake, the entertainment factor.
Well,
as long as we understand the risk going in and they make a conscious choice that I want to play this game, I have no problem with it. As long as we're aware and we're taking the issue of health seriously and the risks are known to everyone that's involved, then I think that that's okay. If they're willing to take the risk themselves, then we're fine. We just shouldn't put them in a position to have to take the risks if they don't know what the risks are. So.
Yeah, but one of the reasons they got rid of the 15-round championship fight was this. Remember Dooku Kim?
Yes.
What happened to him? 14th round, got hit in the face, suffered a cerebral hemorrhage, and died basically in the ring. Who did it to him? Ray Mancini.
Ray Mancini, yeah.
That changed the rules. Because the 10th to the 15th round used to be called the championship rounds. And there were a lot of fighters that got severely hurt in those, especially in the 14th and 15th, 13th, 14th, and 15th rounds. They got severely hurt.
Yeah.
Look at Smoking Joe Frazier. He had brain damage from fighting.
I would be willing to bet that Muhammad Ali's Parkinson's was.
It was pugilistic. It was pugilistic. It was Parkinson's pugilistic.
Yeah, so
it was brought on by his fighting.
Yeah, there's a balance. You want the pure sport aspect if you're a football fan, a longtime football fan, or a boxing fan, or even an MMA fan. You love the combat element.
I have to give UFC a lot of credit. You suffer a knockout in a match. You're in their concussion protocol for 6 months. You're not allowed to train. You're not allowed to do anything for 6 months. Ask Ronda Rousey. She went through it twice.
Yep. I can criticize UFC about many things, but they do take very good care of their fighters. And the referees are well trained to recognize problems, and that's one thing that I think boxing needs to do a better job of on occasion is
You look at boxing now. I mean, one fighter looks like he's in trouble, and I've seen it a lot more lately, especially in the last fight with Jeff Horn fight. He got into a little bit of trouble, and the referee just ended it. He said, "That's enough. I'm done. It's done."
Yeah.
Why? They're trying to protect the fighter. That's the referee's job.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Uphold the rules and protect the fighters, because you can't trust the fighters to protect themselves at certain points in the match where they're physically incapable of doing so. The referees have to have that agency, and and that's the number one issue throughout all of sports that are suffering from CTE and from all of these traumatic brain injuries, combat sports, football, even hockey to an extent. As long as we're up to date on our technology to make, uniforms, helmets, particularly helmets and padding safer, our concussion protocols, if we're following the latest trends in that, and as long as the players are educated about the risks, whether they're boxers, MMA, doesn't matter. Education and prevention and treatment. As long as we're focused on that and we know the risks, I don't have any problem watching football or boxing. I'm just glad that we're out of the dark ages where, players would get, 3 concussions in a game and be told to go back out there.
Right.
That's what I don't have any interest in seeing. Now, I know Smash Mouth football, that old school NFL films, Sam Spence era football is, it's jam packed with, rub some dirt on it and go. That's where the balance comes in. You don't want to watch these guys cripple themselves, but you love the sport, you love it in its purest form, and it's just a balance that you just have to strike, I think.
Yeah, it's a crying shame.
Yeah,
I miss the old school Smash Mouth football.
I do too.
But I understand why it's not there anymore. And I accept it. As much as I dislike the lack of color in WWE, I understand why they're not doing it. With the bloodborne pathogens and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's
I can see what they're doing with Daniel Bryan and the rest of the roster now when it comes to concussions.
But, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I'm going to go on public record. You know, I enjoyed CM Punk in the ring. Great man, great on the mic, great in the ring. But he was a bit on the arrogant side too. Refusing to leave the ring when he suffered a concussion in a I believe a Royal Rumble match.
I think it was the last match he was actually in with WWE in 2014.
Yeah, and he refused to leave the ring.
Yep. Yeah, it's just one of those things where,
it's just, I don't know. I mean, wrestlers, football players, hockey players cannot be counted on to protect themselves.
Yeah. That's where we get into the agency that officials have to have and the leagues have to have. The officials need to have it in the moment. The leagues need to have it overall, protecting these people and getting that education, that information out there. I think that's the important thing moving forward. There's always going to be a market for football. There's always going to be a market for good boxing. There's always going to be a market for good mixed martial arts. And there's always going to be a market for wrestling. Wrestling is never going to go away completely. It's been around forever, and it's probably going to be around forever. It's finding a way to evolve.
What it's going to boil down to get a better product out of WWE is we've got to have a viable competition.
Yeah. Without competition, they are toast. They are never going to maximize their potential. I mean, there's never been a hot streak in WWE like the Attitude Era to come back along. And it don't have to be the vulgar stuff of the Attitude Era. That's not what I mean. They've never had that super hot business streak. Now, they've had mainstream exposure increase, but it's almost been manufactured and artificial.
Mm-hmm.
In 98, 99, mainstream was coming to WWE because it was hot. The product was on fire, and they wanted a piece of it.
Yep.
Today, it feels like WWE.
And they were willing to overlook the extreme graphicness, the graphicness of the product.
Well, there was so much of that.
With all the sexual innuendo and sexual talk and sexual themes and mature themes that were going on. Yeah, advertisers overlooked that because they were printing money.
That is true, but also I think at the same time the Attitude Era in WWE was not only of its time, it fit the culture of the late 90s. The late 90s, there was this sense that it's like this kind of like post grungy. This is the, I always joke that the 1990s are the epic party after the Cold War, where America just took off all its clothes and went streaking because it won the Cold War. And by the late 90s, we were all in this like drunken stupor. And then, you had Jerry Springer on TV. You had the WWE. MTV was getting raunchy with its real world stuff. And you had, the explosion of explicit rap and hip hop, which was really becoming a thing in the 1990s. It thought of kind of taken over mainstream music at that point. It's just this infusion of this edgy, more adult-oriented content. And, of course, the internet's getting big during the Attitude Era, and you have the rise of internet pornography and everything. And, it's all of this stuff. It just felt like the culture shifted from 1991, where, it was all about the family sitcoms like Full House and Family Matters, to 1999, where it's WWE showing naked breasts on TV and Jerry Springer, Marilyn Manson. It's like there's this cultural shift to this like post-grunge phase, and the Attitude Era just fit perfectly in there. And of course, all of the people from the early 90s are looking like fuddy-duddies sitting there wringing their hands like, oh my God, think of the children. That was the 90s. That was the late 90s era. It just fit with that aesthetic. And then 2001 came along and everything went to hell.
Yep. End of competition.
It seems like 2001 ended everything. It's like nothing has been as good as it was before 2001.
Nope.
In any aspect of life in the West. It's like 2001, it just killed everything.
No.
So, but wrestling, especially in 2001, it's never been as big as it was in 2001. I don't think
you want to give an update to the people that might be listening to about World Cup.
Yeah, if you were,
I already know.
Yeah, looks like we have our one of our semifinal teams set on this side of the bracket. England has prevailed, ladies and germs. They beat Sweden 2-0. They are moving on to face the winner of Russia and Croatia, which I personally think England is going to be favored over either of those two teams, especially the Russians. I don't know whose ass the Russians kissed to get this far in the tournament, but they're looking very sharp. They play Croatia later. And then you got England and Belgium in the semifinals on, I think, Wednesday.
You mean France and Belgium?
I'm sorry, France. Yeah, France and Belgium.
We're going to have an all-European final.
Yeah, there's only European teams left. So France and Belgium will compete in one semifinal. Then England faces the winner of Russia, Croatia, and then that sets up our final.
Probably going to have a France-England matchup.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Oh, the special relationship they've had since 1900 is going to collapse into fiery death, and I'm going to be.
I don't care.
Well, look at France and Belgium. It's like the Super Friends from World War I and II are going to go at it.
Yes, I know.
Say it's the mega powers. They're more like the weenie powers in World War II, but no country did a better job screwing over France than Belgium. So now France gets to extract its revenge.
Yep.
And then Russia's going to buy their way into the semifinals against England, and then that's England and Russia.
I don't know, man. The Croats might do it. I have a feeling the Croats might do it. That's my opinion. And that's not looking at either roster.
I just think that Croatia would be worried about Putin trying to invade them. That's honestly what I think is going on here. Because Russia shouldn't have even made it out of group phase, and now they're going to be playing for a shot at the semifinals. It's like, yeah. I think Vladimir Putin is throwing a little bit of influence around here, if you ask me, or maybe they're on the Ivan Drago nutritional plan. That's a joke. Please, Vladimir Putin, if you listen, don't hunt me down.
I don't care if he listens or not.
Mother Russia, number one.
Yeah, okay. You could say the same thing. Lana, number one.
Lana is the best. Lana, number one. This show.
But have you noticed they've kind of eliminated her Russian accent?
Yeah, it's a very convenient little thing. I try not to pay attention to the aesthetics anymore because I'm just going to make myself pissed off. But continuity is for losers, so who cares?
All right, let's move on to another subject. Let's move on to Roman Reigns.
Oh, boy, there's a fun one to go into.
His popularity. We talked to you about this in the pre-show. You brought up a WWE poll, which was shocking to me, actually.
Well, it's
because I don't see it that way.
It's interesting because it belabors 2 points. It belabors what WWE is doing with Roman as a character and storylines, but I think it also reveals something quite telling about his popularity. And this has been the debate over at Cage Side Steaks this week and on Twitter. I've seen this take place on Twitter off and on this week. Why it's cropping up now, I don't know. Maybe it's just that time of year where we're cycling back to the Roman debates. But there's been a huge upswell of argument over Roman Reigns fans and Roman Reigns' detractors. And the central argument seems to be from Roman's fans that there are more people that enjoy Roman than there are people that dislike Roman. that just because you hear the negative reactions on TV, it doesn't mean that he's not still a true top guy. He still sells good merchandise. The company is the most profitable it's ever been. And so they kind of equate Roman Reigns to being someone that's worthy of his spot. And if there's one thing that pisses off Roman's detractors, it's being told that Roman Reigns is where he should be. But there's always been this confusion, and it's always been a subjective kind of this nebulous gray area over what the official percentage is. Do a majority of WWE fans, hardcore and casuals together? We're talking the entire fan base here. You put every WWE fan together, no matter how dedicated to the product they are or not. Do the majority of the fans like Roman, or do the majority of the fans dislike Roman? And, we were talking, we had our own ideas about percentages before. WWE.com put out a poll recently, and it was linked to over at Squared Circle subreddit. So you can go and find this. The percentages may have changed since this morning. WWE asked a simple question and gave you two options. How do you view Roman Reigns? Do you view Roman Reigns as being egotistical or a proud warrior? WWE.com, it has an influx of people who would be considered hardcore fans or smart fans, internet fans. But there's also a very large contingent of Roman Reigns supporters that use WWE.com. It's kind of like the online portal for a lot of casual fans. And I think everybody would agree casual fans tend to view Roman more favorably than hardcore fans. So, WWE.com, you would expect Roman to do very well in this kind of poll. Especially since it's just about Roman and is not comparing Roman to other people who might be more popular. Roman Reigns, 70% of the people that took this poll said that Roman Reigns was egotistical. Only 30% said he was a proud warrior. So in other words, 70% of the people that were polled by WWE.com think that Roman Reigns is a jackass. They think he's a jerk. That is a stunning revelation to me.
It is.
It's the first time that we have seen as close to scientific evidence as you're ever going to get in something that's subjective. Okay, it's a qualitative analysis. It's subjective. You're never going to have firm numbers on this, but this is the closest you'll get to hard evidence that maybe the myth of Roman Reigns having majority support is finally beginning to die. You hear the arguments from Roman Reigns' fiercest supporters, and I'm not making a case one way or the other. I'm a neutral observer in this particular debate. I have my own opinions on Roman, but they don't play into this discourse here. There's always been this perception that the majority of fans like Roman Reigns. It's just a vocal minority that boo him in the arenas. But I don't think that argument holds weight anymore, because we're seeing signs, the traditional metrics that judge success have all been negative this year. WWE is going to have their best year financially, but the traditional metrics that judge a successful year, they are all down. Television ratings have declined. Social media numbers have gone down. Their live attendance has gone down. They're struggling to move tickets to even their television tapings and pay-per-view events. You have all of these signs that historically would mean business is slumping. Now look at Roman Reigns, just the anecdotal evidence. Before WrestleMania, Roman could be in a match and it wouldn't get, shit all over. I think he's had one match on pay-per-view since WrestleMania that the crowd hasn't hijacked. They were booing him in Saudi Arabia, but they weren't really hijacking the match. They hijacked the match at Backlash.
Yeah, he did.
Hijacked Money in the Bank. They're going to hijack at Extreme Rules, especially if it goes in the main event.
Well, like you said, according to Meltzer, Lashley Reigns is going to be the main event.
Yeah, that is.
But that's a whole other can of worms that we could talk about here too if we want.
We're going to have to, because it's a huge issue with what's going on right now in WWE. It's, they put Roman Reigns in a position to fail constantly. I've never seen anybody that's supposed to be a top guy get torpedoed as much as Roman Reigns has. But there's always been this myth among the fans, and I call it a myth, which might betray my personal thoughts on it, that Roman had more fans than he had detractors. I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think you can honestly make that case with a straight face. Because what people are doing is they're taking this and they're saying, there's more Roman fans than there are haters. It's just a vocal minority that's trying to dictate the show. Well, the will of us, meaning Roman fans, should be more valid. It's like Roman's detractors are not valid. And I know this is going to open a huge issue here. I personally find Roman's supporters, the diehard apologists, far more annoying than I do Roman's detractors.
Well, I'm a Roman fan, okay?
I am too.
And I'm not an apologist for the man. Never, you may think I am. I'll sit there and I will argue points with you. I will discuss points with you. I will listen to what you have to say. I may not always agree with it, but if you make a valid point, I'll concede the point. But the thing about it is that part of Roman's problem is not so much Roman, but it's the upper management and Vince. Vince is obsessed with him being a face and being a popular character and being cheered. He's had several opportunities to pull the trigger on putting the belt on Roman. And he's not done it because the crowd reaction is not going to be what I want it to be. Vince, you're not always going to get what the hell you want. Just face the fact. You're going to have to make an unpopular choice and live with it. It's that simple. And I being, as Fizz would say, being, this show being part of the media, wrestling media, I have to remain objective. And damn it, sometimes it's hard. It is. When we get into our next subject, it's really going to be hard for me.
I know it. I know.
But, I mean, I hate, I'm going to sound like this kid, Joe Anawai, the real guy, has done everything that's been asked of him by WWE. And he should be rewarded. It's time. That's just my personal opinion. It's time. It's been time.
It's past time.
As I say, it's past time, but it's been.
Yeah.
It's been time for him for the last 18 months.
This is going to sound.
But Vince is goddamn obsessed with him being cheered and being popular. And once if Vince were to let that go, all of his dreams would come true. Every goddamn one of them.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Taker.
Go for it.
I'm going to put the $64 million question out there. Is Roman Reigns salvageable?
Not this current character, no. And
do you think he is salvageable? Period.
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, now I said this after WrestleMania. I think you heard me say it, and I reiterated this fact at the Greatest Royal Rumble. WWE put a 44 Magnum to Roman's head and put a bullet in it. His character is dead. They've killed his character.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns will never get over with the crowd or with the fandom, ever. They took a character that was fantastic, the silent ass kicker, and going from suckering succotash until now. And I mean, they even had him cutting beautiful promos on Brock. prior to WrestleMania match. And the crowd was getting behind him. You could feel it, you could hear it, you could sense it. And what did they have? What happened? They took the rug out from under him again. Why? Because he wasn't getting the 100% face pop from the crowd. Vince, partner, if you're listening, I don't care. You fucked up then, and you double fucked up at Greatest Royal Rumble. You put a bullet in his head twice. There was no need to kill him the second time because he was already dead. Sorry, guys. That's how I see it.
They have gone out of their way to make Roman Reigns unlikable this year. The way they had him win the title shot at WrestleMania was the complete opposite of what they should have done. Because what did they accomplish in that Elimination Chamber match? They made Braun Strowman look like a world beater that people wanted to get behind. And then Roman Reigns takes out Braun Strowman and it completely deflates the crowd. So you're handicapping him right off the bat. You try to build him up as the person that's going to be there for the fans, which you and I think we've talked about in the past. We've had a little bit of a disagreement over how much support he was building up. I've always kind of leaned towards it was more of a smokescreen than it appeared. Well, the perception was greater than the actual reality.
Perhaps.
But there was, but you can see that there was some support that was building. It's just a matter of how much was building. But there was never going to be widespread support at WrestleMania. That's just the wrong crowd. It's never going to happen at WrestleMania. You know, and from WrestleMania on, they killed the character in New Orleans. I was there. Nobody gave two shits about that match until the bell rang and we saw Brock had won. And then it was like, holy hell, what did we just see? It's like everybody quit playing with their beach balls and took notice. It's like, did we just see Roman Reigns get buried? Because that's what it felt like. It felt like he was jobbed out and squashed. Like, I don't remember Roman Reigns having but like 15% of that match.
And remember, he was bleeding like a stuck hog in the middle of the ring because Brock hard-weighed him with elbows to the head, which he approved. See, here again, Roman did something that was asked of him because he approved it. He agreed to take the hard way elbows to the head. For God's sakes, you do that to him. Give him the belt. Give him the title. No.
They should have just pulled the trigger. They should have just swallowed. They just taken their medicine, dealt with the bad crowd in New Orleans because we didn't care. We all knew it was happening. That's one reason we had the shock that we had was because it didn't happen. Everybody in the arena was resigned to the fact that Roman was winning.
Yeah, that's why they were playing.
So it's not like they would have rejected it. They were going to reject it no matter what. So, but ever since then, he's just been completely unlikable. He was unlikable in the gender feud. He had people taking Ginger's side, for God's sake. He was unlikable in the Joe feud. He complains about management being against him and not wanting him to be the champion, despite the fact they put him in a rematch for no reason that he didn't really deserve. It's not like he barely lost in New Orleans. He got crushed badly. And then he complains about WWE management screwing him over. Yeah, I would like to be screwed over by giving another title shot. That seems like a logical position to hold.
This is where
water.
And this is where the egotistical stuff comes about. Was after that rematch at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Yeah, because technically he's right. He is the uncrowned Universal Champion. His feet were on the floor first. We've all seen it. And yes, the referee screwed it up. Why? Because he was told to by Vince to screw it up. Vince is still trying to get Roman over as a sympathetic face, and it's not going to work.
Do you know who Roman reminds me of right now? And I'm not talking about in-ring comparing them. There's no in-ring comparison here, but
character.
character.
Okay, who?
Yeah, who he reminds me of character-wise?
Who?
Bret Hart, circa 96, 97.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. He's got that air of this pissed off chip on his shoulder where it's causing him to just walk around like this self-entitled douche, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But they're scripting him that way. He's becoming more egotistical to the casual fans because that's how they're scripting him to be. Either turn him heel or release him or do something. Just quit screwing the guy up. He's not worthy of this much contempt. And you'll never convince me that Vince McMahon doesn't secretly have it out for this guy, because you don't. He set him up to fail for 5 years now.
It almost harkens back to a promo that Vince cut on him prior to Vince kicking him in the nuts about his father.
Oh, back in 2015.
Yeah. Where I used him up and threw him away. Remember that promo?
Yep, I remember it.
It's the same thing that's being done to him now. Roman Reigns is being used up and is going to be thrown away. Eventually, Vince is going to see what he's done and he's going to release Roman and he's going to future endeavor him and he'll be gone for 2 or 3 years and he'll come back and he'll be welcomed back as a returning hero. Why? Because fandom will have forgotten about him.
Well, this is what I don't understand about the Roman haters. And they talk about how Roman is constantly shoved down their throats. I'm like, have you seen the last 2 years of programming?
Roman has been busting his ass.
Well, I want to be clear here. I want to be clear. If we're talking in-ring work, I think Roman has regressed considerably this summer. I don't think he's had a good match on pay-per-view since before Elimination Chamber. Frankly, I wasn't impressed with him in the Elimination Chamber. WrestleMania and the Greatest Royal Rumble sucked. Backlash really sucked, and Jinder Mahal's match was laughable. I thought it was pretty crap. So I think Roman's had a bad streak on pay-per-view. But we're just looking at Roman's character and the successes that he's had. Roman Reigns has been booked to fail for like the last 2 years.
Let me ask you a question. Now I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Okay. Let's say, hypothetically, you're Roman Reigns.
Okay.
All right? And you keep being told, yes, we're going to put the title on you. We're going to put the title on you. Put the title on you. And at the last minute, you're told you got a job out to Brock. And you got a job out to Brock. And you got to keep jobbing out to Brock. Won't you get to the point where you start saying, well, fuck it. I want to mail it in.
Yes, and that could be the number one reason why it feels like he's regressed. He might just quit caring.
I think he has.
Well, I don't blame him. I don't blame Roman Reigns one bit for that, if that's the case. Because, my God, why would you go out and bust your ass for people that hate you and for a company that misuses you? Like, I don't see how anybody could realistically say that Roman Reigns has been treated good since WrestleMania 33. Ever since WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, it's been one continual nutshot over another. Yeah, he's been in the main events, but he's been booked to look like a freaking moron 99% of the time. I mean, he took the fall at SummerSlam last year. He worked to put Braun Strowman over, which that was kind of the one bright spot. He had a 6-week Intercontinental title run, then he lost, to
the Miz.
To the Miz,
who he should have squashed.
He had a poor performance in the Elimination Chamber, and a lot of people were upset about it. The build-up to WrestleMania was as interesting as it could be, but then the WrestleMania match itself was a tire fire. Greatest Royal Rumble turned out to be a disaster. Backlash was a catastrophic failure. You had people leaving the arena during the match.
Hey, you had people leaving before the match even started.
Yeah. It's like this guy has been positioned to fail. I would even argue he was positioned to fail in Orlando last year. Nobody will ever convince me that they thought it was a good idea for Roman Reigns to beat The Undertaker. All that was going to do was put more heat on Roman Reigns and make the fans that much more antagonistic towards him.
Well, what they should have done at that point, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, they had a golden opportunity the Monday night after that match.
Turn him heel.
Yeah, the heat he had at Raw the Monday after WrestleMania. I mean, what was supposed to be a short 5-minute segment at the top of the show went 12 minutes because he was owning the crowd. Remember? He'd raise that mic up, the crowd would go nuts. He'd put it down. Yep. And he was sitting there. You could see he was enjoying himself. He was having fun. He was comfortable in his own skin. Why? Because the promo, he knew the promo he was going to deliver was a heel promo. And he said, I think it was 5 or 6 words. The words were, "This is my yard now."
This is my yard now. Yeah. And I'm going to make one minor addition to that. And this is exactly what you were talking about. If they had let him go heel that night,
oh God,
all he would have had to do was say this. This is my yard now. Crowd boos the shit out of him. But he doesn't leave the ring. And he waits for it to die down. And if he said, and if you don't like it, kiss my ass. And just left, Roman Reigns would be the biggest star in the company.
He would. He would.
Full stop. He would be the number one. He would be the biggest heel this company has had.
He would have. He would have made
in 1998.
He would have made the Miz as a heel shrink.
Yeah, he really would have. Nothing.
Hell, I said that's been 2 years ago, almost now.
Yep.
Then they blew it. They absolutely blew it. I was thinking, oh, we're gonna, because when he said that, I'm like, oh, there's a heel promo if I ever heard it. We're gonna have heel Roman now. Great.
They blew it. They blew it in 2017 after WrestleMania. They blew it in 2016 when Seth Rollins came back and Roman got suspended. Yeah, it's my phone. They blew it. They blew it this year after WrestleMania, and Roman Reigns had the whole whiny persona kick up, and it's just, one thing after another. It's just constantly they screw up. They screw up. They miss their window. They miss their window. Opportunity blown. Opportunity blown. It's just, you'll never convince me that Roman Reigns has been treated well. I mean, he's been in a prominent position, but there's a difference between being in a prominent position and being treated well. It's
maybe there's one way they can save him. Maybe. Somebody's due to come back soon.
Well,
very popular character. The Lunatic Fringe, Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're going to try and turn Dean heel.
That would be a mistake.
Well, I know that.
And here's another golden opportunity, Vince. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. I'm going to lose a little bit of fantasy booking here. Okay? Roman Reigns is in a match with somebody. Let's generalize. Who's a pretty solid heel right now on Raw?
Kevin Owens.
He's in a match with Owens. Right? Sammy shows up to, let's say, hypothetically, Sammy shows up, even though Sammy's out for like the next year for double rotator cuff surgery. Someone comes out to help Kevin Owens, right? And they jump and start beating the hell out of Roman. Dean Ambrose hits the ring. Together, Roman and him clear it. And then Roman turns to him and looks at him and mouths to him, "You son of a bitch," and beats the holy shit out of Ambrose.
Roman Reigns would need police escort to get out of the building safely.
Yep. There's your heel turn. That's the only way I think they could save his character right now is if they got him heel if they turned him heel on the right person. And right now, Dean Ambrose is it. The only other way they could do it is to send him over to SmackDown and have him beat the shit out of Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan and Dean Ambrose are the only two people that you could probably do this with and have it work.
Yep.
So.
And Legends Lover came up with the one about Daniel Bryan. And I just came up with the one with Dean Ambrose. Sorry, AA, but that's how I see it.
Let me correct myself. I think he could do it with Seth Rollins too.
It won't be believable because those two stuck together too much.
I think
That one with Daniel Bryan is.
I think Seth could work.
How do you think? LL's over here tapping me on the shoulder, telling me that working, him turning on Dean would not work. I said it would because they've been connected at the hip for a while.
I think
they stuck together when the Shield first broke up, and they always seemed to have each other's back when it was necessary.
Dean could work if you tell the right story. Seth could work, but it would be harder to tell the story.
Right.
Daniel would be.
Daniel's the best fit.
Daniel's the best fit because it's the most believable. Nobody would ever bat an eye of Roman Reigns beating the crap out of Daniel Bryan because Roman blames his trouble with the fans on Daniel Bryan, which I think we've gone over in the past, in discussion, I think we're both in agreement that it's not all on Daniel Bryan. Like Daniel Bryan played a role in 2015, but Daniel Bryan is not the core reason that fans rejected Roman Reigns. They rejected Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns wasn't ready for the responsibility of that role. If they had waited a year for Roman Reigns, they would have been in a much better position to capitalize on his talent. He just wasn't ready in 2015. They rushed it too soon. Daniel Bryan had a role to play in the initial Backlash, but Bryan Danielson, the person in real life, is not responsible for Roman Reigns not getting over with the fans. So, but the perception would be realistic enough where people could buy into it. It would make sense. It's a natural extension of, real life, realism being injected into these angles. They love that reality twinge to their angles now. It would be a perfect way to capitalize on that. So Bryan would be the number one candidate to turn Roman heel on. I don't think turning on Lashley next Sunday will do a damn thing.
No, because Lashley's boring.
Yeah, Lashley just never really caught on in the WWE. So Lashley,
even back in the Ruthless, he was there during the Ruthless Aggression era.
I'm trying to think when he first debuted. I know he was at WrestleMania 20.
Well, I know he was ECW heavyweight champion for a while.
Yeah, I think he was like 2005, 2006 to 2009.
He's been gone about 10 years.
Yeah, so 2005 to 2008, in that general range, is where he would be in the company the first time. He wasn't that big a deal back in his first run. He had the big match at WrestleMania 23, but that match was pretty much sold on Vince and Trump.
Yeah, that was against Umaga.
Yeah. Which,
Uncle Eddie.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, we can go on and on forever about Roman Reigns and what we need to do to him to either rehab or is he salvageable or not.
Right, but
we could sit there and toss ideas until the cows come home.
Yeah, the entire point of it is, I think the fans are starting to turn on Roman wholesale now. And people, especially Roman's fans, need to understand, yes, your opinion is valid, but just because people don't like Roman Reigns doesn't mean their opinion isn't valid. There are some people that blindly hate Roman and always have, and they're just trolling. Okay, that's fine. I understand calling those people out, but there's been this real, I would almost argue, this defensiveness about Roman fans over the last couple of weeks. It's almost like the party's over and they don't want to recognize it, honestly. There was an article that Kate's out teaching about the sunk cost fallacy with Roman, and it's true. It really is. It's Roman. They're throwing good money after bad now. Roman is not being used like he should, and anyone that's got a qualitative eye towards the product can recognize that.
Nope.
You know, it's just
like I said, it's unfortunate in me being a fan of Roman, but I also, like I said, have to be objective here. And granted, it's hard, but I see that the character of Roman Reigns, as far as I'm concerned, has been dead since WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They put a 44 Magnum to his head and pulled the trigger. The minute Brock opened him up and made him bleed, that was the end of Roman Reigns as a viable character.
I would agree.
Okay. The next big hot button topic we're going to talk about is Ronda Rousey, part-time or full-time?
We're just doing all the hot take issues here today.
Why not? I've got someone that can actually, can control their emotions.
Ooh, is that a shot at Doc?
He can control his emotions too. It's his loss that he's not here for this.
I love you, Doc, you lazy bastard on vacation.
Hey, he's allowed. He gets something I don't ever get. He gets a paid vacation. I don't. If I take 4 or 5 days off, I don't get paid for it.
It must be nice, Doc. You bastard.
Anyway, that is a subject that causes many arguments in the threads. We know this. We've seen them. We participated in them. And I am of the belief that based on the amount of appearances Ronda has made, both on Raw and on the house show circuit for that matter, makes her more of a full-time type versus what she does not have the Brock Lesnar contract. That is the issue. Everybody saying, well, when she gets the title, she is going to disappear from the lackluster pay-per-views. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. She may not be wrestling every week on TV, but that does not mean she's not full-time. Look at all the people that sit in catering. Naomi sits in catering. Natalya sits in catering. Bailey sits in catering. Sasha will sit in catering. There are others who sit in catering every week who aren't on television, but they're just as much full-time as Ronda could be. But yet everybody looks at it. What is the disconnect? What is the reason for people saying Ronda is part-time? Granted, Ronda has not had 2 years down in NXT or 2 years of developmental like Lesnar had the first time he came into WWE. Ronda does not go back to a farm in North Dakota and Canada and doesn't want to play. Ronda wants to be out there. Ronda loves what she's doing. She gets the business. She understands the business. She loves the business. She's passionate. Look at her in the ring.
She's done more house show appearances in 6 months than Brock Lesnar's done since he's been back.
Yes.
It's like she's wrestling on the house show circuits here.
But she's not full time. She's not full time, Biff. She gets the title. She's going to do the Brock Lesnar thing.
This is people going out of their way to look for a reason to bitch and moan and groan. I'm sorry. I have no respect for this position whatsoever. It is purely emotional, and I'm on your side. I have no respect for the people that are arguing this tripe, is what I'm saying. There is nothing logical in this. You don't have to be on the show every week to be full-time. Brock Lesnar is a part-time guy. He comes in maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Kane is a part-time guy. He'll come up for a couple of weeks every couple of months, and then he'll disappear and be gone, okay? Goldust is a full-time guy. He's with the company every week, but he's not on TV every week. He might be on TV once every once a month or something. He'll do the house show loop. He's a full-time guy that they just don't have a use for. Andrade Cien Almas is a full-time guy now that they haven't had on TV much because they just don't have anything for him to do. Ronda Rousey is in a different boat. She's not on TV because she is still very new at this and they're still training her. She's filling out her commitments outside of the ring, but she's still training. She's still doing the house show loops. She's wrestling. She's getting better. She is a legitimate athlete, a legitimate star that came in, wowed everybody at WrestleMania, and had a tremendous performance. People thought it was going to be a car. Which admittedly I think was too soon. But what did she do in that title match? She busted ass, and they had a great match. She has proven that she can do it in the ring. She's doing the house show loop. She's training. She's getting better. She's committed to it. Shut the hell up, you idiot. She's not Brock Lesnar, okay? They're doing as good a job as they've done with Ronda Rousey as they've done with anybody in that company, okay? It's like, you morons, you sit there part-time, but you complain the very next freaking minute about getting Bobby Roode versus Elias for 4 straight weeks. Well, you know how you solve the problem of getting the same match 4 goddamn weeks in a row? You don't use them on TV if you don't have something for them to do. Jesus, people like to bitch for no reason. All right, I'm off my soapbox.
You're fine. I was about to say, preach, Brother Biff, preach. Because I knew before I even brought this subject up, you were on my side. I knew this because you have battled with me in the trenches, in the threads, telling people they're full of shit. Okay? You have stood by my side. You have had my back. Because it's the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the truth. Ronda Rousey is in this for the long haul. Now the big argument is, she's 31 years old and she wants to have kids. Yeah, and Brie came back after having Birdie, thank you very much. She's only had 1 match when she came back and wrestled, did she not? And looked damn good at it, too. So there is precedence for this. But people are going to sit there and say, well, we're going to have the part-time champion like Brock Lesnar on Raw if Ronda Rousey wins the title. People, get it out of your head. Get it in your head. At SummerSlam, she's getting the strap. Mark my words. It is 11:42, Saturday the 7th of July. This time, or by the end of August, Ronda Rousey will be your Raw Women's Champion. Mark my words. And when it happens, I will sit there in the threads and I will watch it burn to the ground, laughing, eating my popcorn. And I'm sure Biff, you'll join me that morning.
I'm awake, yes.
Or that evening.
Yeah,
it'll be 2 threads burning the hell down. And I'm going to sit there and just laugh and eat my popcorn and say, yep, I told you so. I said the same thing about Jinder Mahal. I said the same thing about Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton. I called that Jinder Mahal was going to win. I called it a month ahead of time. Well, I'm calling it more than a month ahead of time. Ronda Rousey after SummerSlam will be your WWE Raw Women's Champion. Believe it and book it. Go put your money down.
If you are a fan of the WWE and you don't like the way Ronda Rousey is being used, we can have a conversation on that. I have no problem with that kind of conversation because that's subjective. But don't sit there and badmouth Ronda Rousey strictly because, she's a part-timer and she doesn't care or whatever. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just speaking out of your butt. And you make yourself look stupid. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean to you, but there is arguing. there is a debate from an intellectual position where you're using logic and reason to back up your opinions, and then there's an emotional argument. If you don't like Ronda, fine. But don't go looking for a reason to hate on her that's BS. If you don't like her, just say you don't like her. There's nothing wrong with not being a fan of a performer. But there's this incessant need to invalidate what Ronda Rousey is doing in the company right now. You know what? They're doing good by not putting her on TV every week. If you will notice, the fans have not turned against her like they turn against every other face they try to push. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, they've had like 4 people that they pushed to baby faces that the crowd hasn't turned on at some point in the last 5 years.
Yep.
It's just so ridiculous that people go out of their way to look for a reason to bitch when there are so many reasons that are worth bitching about already there. WWE will never provide you with a shortage of reasons to be upset.
Bailey,
So there's plenty of reasons to be a pissed off fan.
Let's make a list, shall we? Let's see. There's Bailey. There's Becky Lynch. There's Sasha right now who's stuck in limbo. There's Liv Morgan, who don't belong on the main roster. There's Lana, who don't belong on the main roster in ring, although she has improved greatly from the time that she had the title matches with Naomi. There's what, 4 or 5 of them right there that are.
Yeah.
Or don't forget, lest we forget Alexa and Carmella. So there's 7 that are absolutely more worth complaining about than Ronda. Ronda is great at selling.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that George from Two Guys One Sport brought up was the subtle things that she does in the ring. Okay? When she went to the top rope, you could see her looking at Nia, looking at the top rope, the top turnbuckle, looking back at Nia, and all of a sudden it's like you see the light go on. And what does she do? She goes up and does a cross body block off the top rope. Granted, I can't remember if she knocked her down or not. I think she got caught, but still, the fact remains. That's a subtle form of selling, ladies and gentlemen. That is something you don't see anymore. She's telling a story. She's like, oh, I have an idea. I wonder, yeah, why don't I do it? And up she went. Brilliant. Simple. What more, Ronda is she's 100 times better than Alexa or Carmella combined. And I think Biff just dropped off. My opinions, ladies and gentlemen, are my opinions. And, we want to debate about this, that's fine. You can come in here, we can debate anywhere you want. But I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to look at, because I'm old, like I've said it before and many times before on this show, I'm old school. And yeah, Legends Lover, you're right. In the chat, Legends Lover brought up a very valid point. Ronda is also from the UFC, and everybody's afraid she's going to go back to the UFC. Ronda doesn't want to go back. She's already said she's not going back. Once she's done with professional wrestling, she's done with it. Period. She's done with everything. She's done everything she's wanted to do.
Yeah.
Then, but Jesus, man, you want? I've got an open invitation out there to anybody who wishes to debate me on the legitimacy of Ronda Rousey as a great wrestler and performer, and as a being full time. Yeah, so what? She got a 30-day suspension. She should have got a 30-day suspension for what she did, for hitting, attacking upper management. She should have got suspended after she armbarred Stephanie McMahon a second time, but didn't. I was expecting that to come. but they waited until she attacked Kurt Angle with the briefcase and kicked the shit out of 2 referees. Okay. It's no different than what Brock did when he F5'd Michael Cole out of his shoes. So that's, that's just what I see here. And sounds like Biff's having audio issues. I told him I just now told him to go reboot it if he has to. So, but yeah, it's a shame. I mean, there is no way. There is no way you can knock me off of what I believe, or what I see. Because, yes, I'm a fan of Ronda Rousey. I was a fan of Ronda Rousey in the UFC. She got her ass handed to her twice. Okay. She got knocked out by someone who was smarter, bigger, stronger, faster. Her style has gone out of vogue in UFC. Now they're more into striking and punching and knocking people out. Okay. That's fine. Now she's come over to WWE where her armbar and all of her ways that she can make someone submit seem to fit better. I mean, shit, her grappling style was taught to her by Jean frickin' LaBelle. Okay?
No slouch. Let's put it that way.
So she has an idea. She has a clue of what she's doing in the ring already. All she needs is some tightening up and some cleaning up of her movement style and everything. From her first match against Stephanie and Triple H to her match with Nia, there was vast improvement. She's gotten smoother. And when it comes to the match with Alexa, she's going to make Alexa look like a little bitch.
Look, I'll throw this in there, and this is probably going to be my last 2 cents on it because I can't weigh in any better than you have on the whole issue. It's just, when it comes to the Ronda Rousey subject, there's just so much emotion and not enough logic. And I think that is a problem. And I'm not saying this like I'm hoity-toity about it. I've had my issues with this in the past too, so I know what I speak of because I've done it too. But there's just so much emotion tied into it. It's such a knee-jerk reaction. I think if people just kind of sat back and just kind of let things play out in this one instance, I think Ronda Rousey is one of the rare cases in WWE right now where you need to sit back and watch it play out because so far they've gotten her right. I don't know if it's Vince is taking a special interest in it or if they just lucked out to this point, but they're getting Ronda right. And the fan reactions have been good for her. So it's not like they've been destroying her character and it's just been turning her into an albatross of suck here. Just sit back, see where it goes. You don't have to like the storylines. You can complain about that, but don't manufacture reasons that aren't true. Ronda Rousey is still learning how to do this. She's been at this for less than a full year now. She has training in grappling. She's an MMA star. She's bringing her star power with her. That's why she's in this position. Okay? This is not something that they're doing just for Ronda. They've done this in the men's division for 30, 40 years now. Lawrence Taylor main evented at WrestleMania. Okay? He brought his star with him. Stars get attention. Ronda is a star that's wrestling now. She's doing the house show loops. She's training. She's getting better. She's fulfilling all her commitments. She's helping WWE increase their notoriety in the mainstream because Ronda Rousey is a mainstream celebrity. Okay, she's a mainstream athlete that people remember. This is good for the company. It's good for the women's division. It raises the profile. Ronda Rousey defending that title post SummerSlam against Sasha, Bayley, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, Ruby Riott, Ember Moon, those are going to do so much to help the other people because their star is going to rise onto Ronda's level. Ronda's star power will pull them up. Okay? They're going to get more notoriety in the next year than they would have in the last 10. Just calm down, let it play out, and bitch about the problems in WWE that are worth bitching about, guys. You're focusing all your energy on the wrong problems. Ronda Rousey is not a problem right now.
Ronda Rousey is a benefit.
Ronda Rousey is a plus. Okay.
You want to get this is my last statement on the Ronda Rousey thing, and then we'll close that subject for that discussion thread. Ronda Rousey will be someone that will draw more casual fans in because of who she is and what she's already done. She's retired from UFC. They just put her in the UFC Hall of Fame Friday night or Thursday night. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think she's ever going to go back to the octagon. She's not going to pull a Brock Lesnar and go running back or go try to do something else and then come back to WWE. No,
she's done.
She's done. She might go do a movie every now and then, which I believe she's entitled to do. She has that much crossover power. And if you've got that kind of power, take advantage of it. Look at John Cena. Look at The Rock. They've all done it. Look at Mike Mizanin, The Miz. He does it. He's done 5 Marine movies.
She might also.
You know something? I want to throw an addendum in there.
Huh?
I want to throw an extra point in there that you just made, that you brought up that I just realized. Even if she is part-time, so the hell what? She has earned the right to come in and be a part-time star because she is a star. That's been in wrestling for generations now. That's not a new phenomenon, which is her.
No.
They put celebrities in big spots over the regular roster for time immemorial. The very first WrestleMania was built on that premise. Mr. T wasn't a freaking star that was on the road with the wrestlers for years and years. He came in for one match. Yeah. Okay, at least Ronda Rousey, even if you consider her part-time, which she's not, but let's say she is a part-timer. So the freak what? Her talent and her athletics and her star put her in that position. She deserves to be in that position. There's nothing wrong with her being in that position. So even if you do try to argue that she's part-timer, so the hell what? It doesn't make a difference.
Nope.
It makes no difference whatsoever. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a complete non-issue that people just need to get off their high freaking horse about. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah, well, you know, it's...
All I know is we'll hear all about it the next couple of weeks. When
and you know what? I'll sit there and say, if you don't like if you didn't like what I had to say on this show, send me an email.
Yeah.
Post a Twitter message. I don't care. I really don't care. You want to be a whiny little. I mean, Jesus. Ronda is the golden calf, like I said. WWE is gonna put the title on her. WWE will print money. All she'll have to do is just show up at Raw. She won't have to get into the ring. She'll just have to show up. And the place is going to be sold out. Why? Because she's not pulling the Brock Lesnar and going home and sitting on her fat ass. Which I say, she doesn't have a fat ass. Like Brock. Brock goes home, sits on his ass, don't do nothing. From rumor has it, his current contract is $500,000 per appearance. And he'll stay active on the roster as long as he's champion. The minute he loses the belt, he gets back into the USADA pool and goes back to the octagon. Which I think is a shitty contract for WWE.
Yeah, but you know what? WWE has no one to blame but themselves. They're the ones that offered it. So,
yep.
I mean, they made their bed, now they get to lie in it.
Yep. Anyway, let's move on from that to a subject that both of us are starting to hold near and dear. Tonight in the United States is the first night of the Nagoya Basho for sumo.
Sumo wrestling. Yes, sir.
Sumo. Yes.
It's back.
And the July Bansuke is out. And currently, boy, East and West are a mess. East side this is the top, 16 on the East. Starting from the bottom at Megashira 16 is Hokuto Fuji, someone who's finally back or making his debut in the Makushita division. And he got Ishihara Kotoeko also making his debut. Tochi Hozan, Sendanumi, that's at Megashira 12. Megashira 11 is Aoyama. Then you got Chiramaru at Megashira 10, who he's known to fly 3 rows into the seats if he loses. We've all seen that. Mayogiryu at Megashira. But let's get to the top of this. We're the top 6 is Endo, Daisho Maru, Kaisei, Abi, that's that happy-go-lucky kid.
Mm-hmm.
Ikioi, who's Megashira 2, Shodai. And at Komosubi got Tamawashi. He's just now making his debut there. Sekewaki, we got the Snorlax. Ichinojo. He always looks like he's asleep. Number 1, and the only Ozeki on the east side is Goedo, Captain Henka. Yokozuna number 2 is Kasina Sato, and Yokozuna number 1 is Kakuryu. Now, on the west side, which is normally the weaker side, I'll take it from the top 6. It's Chirotaryu is Megashira 6. Megashira 5 is Yoshikaze. Kagayaki is Megashira 4. Takakeisho is Megashira 3, which is where your favorite and mine was last November. Or no, last January when he won the Basho. Tochinoshi, right. Chionokuni at Megashira 2. Koto Shogiku, a.k.a. the Geek, at Megashira 1. A brand new Komosubi in Shohozan. Mitaki Yumi was promoted from Komosubi to Sekewake. But here is the big one, the big promotion that was made 2 days after the last Basho was Tochinoshin moving up from Sekiwaki to Ozeki. A well-deserved promotion. He made it.
He's had a hell of a year so far.
He's had one hell of a year. Out of let's see, there's been 3 tournaments already, and out of 45 matches, he's won 37 of them. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just dominance.
Had a tournament win and a runner-up position.
He's had a tournament win, a runner-up, and a 10-5.
Yeah, can't do much better than that, especially with his injuries that he had to deal with.
Yeah, he had broken bone. He had a broken hand. The last 2 days of the March or the May tournament.
And considering the style of sumo that he employs, broken hand, that's a tremendous handicap.
Yeah, he's a Mawashi wrestler. He goes after the belt.
Kind of a traditionalist in that respect, isn't he?
Yes.
So.
And he defeated Hakuho the first time in 26 strides. He's 1-25 against Hakuho. One of the most dominant Yokozunas out there.
If you're new to sumo like I was, like this past Basho in May was my first exposure to sumo wrestling. Tochinoshin is a great kind of entry point into the sport because of his story, the stuff going on in his life, what he's had to come back from through injuries, and his Ozeki run that he just made. Tochinoshin's story is a really accessible story for a lot of people that may be interested in sumo to get into. I didn't think that I would care for it, and Taker, you could take notice of this because you saw me in the nightly threads as much as I could be there. I was hooked. I was hooked from probably the first or second day. I mean, I was watching like the lower divisions with fascination. It's such an interesting sport. It's steeped in tradition and history, and it's very difficult to get into it because of the language barrier. There's not a lot of English speaking coverage of it, but there is some out there. There is some out there if you look for it, especially on YouTube, so you can find ways to kind of get versed in it. Tochinoshin is a great guy to follow. He just made his Ozeki run. He's now in Ozeki, so now all eyes are going to turn towards him and see what he can do with it.
Can he? The question is, can he keep it now and move up even higher? I mean, there's only one more step he can make.
Yeah, I mean, there's the great prize left, and he's now at the start of what would be a run to Yokozuna. But just as he can make a run towards Yokozuna, he's got to make a run to keep Ozeki. He can't slack off. So it's every match counts. Every match in these bashos are important, and I think that's
people are gonna, the rank and filers and the junior wrestlers that are in the top division are going to be coming after him, and he has got to, he's got to shine like he did. He's got to start out like he did in the last basho in Tokyo. He went the first 11 days without a loss.
He's got to keep up the same momentum he's had all year so far.
Yeah,
he's got to keep that momentum, and that's what makes sumo so interesting, is seeing the performers that have the momentum versus the ones that are struggling. Hakuo, he struggled in the last basho comparative to his status as Yokozuna.
Yes, normally he's a very dominant Yokozuna.
He lost what, 3 matches, which is very rare for a Yokozuna.
He lost 3, which is he lost 2.
He lost he lost in the because
the only losses he had in the last basho, one was Tochinoshin, and the other one was Kakuryu. That was the only 2 losses he had.
I thought he lost to Abi as well, because he had like a loss to.
That's right. He did lose to Abi. You are correct. You are correct.
Oh, see, there you go.
Abi was the upset.
Right. That was the shocker of the. Well, that and Tochinoshin finally getting off.
Well, everybody was expecting Hakuho to henka Tochinoshin.
Yeah.
And he got into a Mawashi battle with Tochinoshin and lost.
Yeah. It's so exciting. I can't stress enough how exciting it actually is when you start to follow this. I mean, it's a tournament basically.
When a match lasts 3 minutes, that's long.
Yeah, it's Big Bang Boom. You got new matches every couple of minutes coming out, so it's to see these big men, and I mean these guys are big. Like Ichinojo, he weighs close to 500 pounds. And yet they're so freaking light on their feet and so fast. Yeah, there's that old Wendy's commercial. Where's the beef? It's in Nagoya.
I mean, the matches for tonight. Just to talk, I'm going to start with. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. The last 5 matches of the night. Okay. You got Tochinoshin versus, Ozeki Tochinoshin versus the Megashira 2 Ikioi. Great match. That's going to be a great match. Ozeki Takayasu versus the Megashira 1 Koto Shogiku. And then you got, that's the 2 from the west side. And then the Ozeki on the east, Goeda versus Shodai, which is going to be another one. Another good one. Tamawashi, who's been making a push lately, draws Hakuho in his first match.
Oof. I think Hakuho was going to be on a mission of revenge and redemption.
Because if you looked at every time he lost during the last basho, he was mad. Yeah. Hakuho got mad.
Well, if he had another performance like he did in the last tournament, I think you're going to start to see people start to question whether or not he's lost a step.
Well, he's been fighting foot injuries.
Yeah, and
that's a lot. That's a big thing for a sumo, is to have any injuries to their feet, toes. If you injure your toes, I mean, if you look closely, they dig in with their toes to try to keep themselves from being shoved out of the ring, because the only way you can win a match in sumo is either push your up, get your opponent, throw your opponent or push your opponent out of the ring, or have any other part of their body but the soles of your feet, which is the bottoms, touch the ground, touch the doyo. So if you lose your balance and you put your hands out to catch yourself, you lose. You lose. You touch the ground with your hand, you lose. Whether it's your fault, whether they did anything to you or not. If you lose your balance and fall, that's on you. You lose. That's what makes it so interesting. There are so many ways you could lose. So many ways you can win, so many ways you can lose.
Yeah, and I think we need to also address too, for people that aren't familiar with the sport. When you reach the level of yokozuna, that's pretty much the highest honor that you can reach in sumo, is being
you're grand champion, and that's a rank that more often than not you don't get demoted from.
Yeah, but the catch-22 with that though, and this is what Hakuo and the other yokozuna, not Kakoru, but
Kitsune Sato.
Yeah, this is what he's been dealing with too. Once you reach the rank of yokozuna, if you're not able to perform up to the level, up to the standards that are established for yokozuna competitors, the pressure is immense on you to step away and retire, because they don't want you dishonoring essentially the office, the rank that you hold.
Right.
And so for Hakuo to come into this basho after the upset loss to Abi in May, then you had the 2 losses to close out the tournament to Tochinoshin and his big rival, of course,
Kakuryu.
Yeah, it's he's got enormous pressure on himself now to come out and win this basho, because if he starts dropping 3 to 4 matches every tournament, the pressure is going to start building up on him. Why aren't you winning? Why aren't you doing better than you are? And then, with Sato, it's he's coming off the injuries. He's missed the last 2.
He's missed the last 7, and he's not participating in this one, so that makes 8 in a row.
Yeah, so you're going to have the calls for him to retire really get loud.
The calls are already starting.
Yeah, so
the calls for him to retire are already coming. Kitsune Sato, up until Wednesday, up until Wednesday, it was a go that he was going to be there and was going to compete. And then late Wednesday night, Thursday for them was late Thursday, early Friday. He decided to pull out.
I will say this, and I'm by no means an expert. I'm still very much a new fan.
I'm not an expert either.
Well, you know a lot more than I do, but I will say this, and I think this is for people that are listening that have never really watched sumo that might be interested in getting into it because we're talking about it. This is one thing that I will say, and kind of what attracts me to sumo. I have a very strong attraction to meritocracy in sport, even in professional wrestling to an extent. I love the idea the best person wins. And I don't mean the best person wins every single match. Obviously, you can't just do that. It gets boring after a while. But, your best performer should be your champion. That's my idea of a meritocracy in wrestling. The best performer should be put in the position to carry the company. Which is why I have such a problem with WWE and particularly love New Japan and their product, is there's a sense of a meritocracy. Not always, but occasionally.
Yep.
If you like that meritocratic, that meritocracy, sumo is the sport for you, because every match matters, every fight matters, and there is a sense of honor and tradition that upholds the meritocracy of sumo. If you're an Ozeki, you have to win at a level dignified of your stature, or else you're demoted. If you're a Yokozuna, you're expected to compete at an even higher level. If you don't compete at that level, you are pressured to quit because you're dishonoring your rank. It's all about being the best, and to win and to earn promotion, you have to win certain bars. They're arbitrary in the sense that there could be a little bit of leeway, but we knew going into the Basho in May what Tochinoshin had to do to get promoted to Ozeki. There's historical markers that are used as milestones that are pretty good standards for promotion. It's merit. It's a meritocracy. It's based on merit. Tochinoshin had to earn it. It's not something the Sumo Association just gave him because they thought it would make him a bigger star.
No, the way it worked with him. Okay, now technically, Tochinoshin moving up to Sekewaki after January. Okay, that put him in the ranks of, I can't think of it now. Damn it. Hold on. I'll get that up in a second and I'll tell you guys. Sumo divisions. There we go. Yes, Shanyaku. That is the extreme top division. Sanyaku. You technically got to be in that, a Sekewaki. His promotion to Sekewaki after his tournament win in January was a given. He made a big jump from making sure a 3 all the way up to Sekewaki. Technically, when he made that promotion, he should have started his 33 win streak, 33 wins the next Basho. But because he won the tournament in January, those wins counted. And he had 14 wins. He went 14-1 in January. And then he went, I think, he went 10-6. 10-5. 10-5 in March. Then in May, he went, 12-3? Or 13-2.
2. He lost 2. Yeah, he lost 2 in a row at the end.
He wound up with 37. He only needed 33 wins in 3 consecutive Bashos, and he did that. He wound up with 37. Plus the tournament win in January. That was the deciding factor because he was a rank and file guy when he won the tournament. That was a major upset in January.
Yeah, the sumo season, for those of you that aren't aware, is basically divided into 6 tournaments. They're called bashos, and each tournament is a round robin with generally, I think, 15
days. You do 15 matches, 1 match per day.
Right, you got 1 match per day over 15 days, and it's a round robin. The best record wins the basho. And that's the only time of the year. The 15-day tournaments, there's 6 of them in a year. And I think we're about to head into the 4th one, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's the only time of the year where these wins matter. So you have 6 tournaments in a year to do your business. And that's what makes every match in the tournament important. Because if you don't win, enough matches, you can be demoted. If you have like a losing record as an Ozeki, which our boy Tochinoshin, who we both like, he is newly promoted to Ozeki. If he has 2 straight tournaments where he loses more than he wins, he can be demoted from Ozeki.
Back down to Sekewaki, correct.
Back down to Sekewaki, yeah. And so it's like there's constant movement up and down depending on your record. It's all about that, merit of performance.
Right. Well, he has to have a Kachikoshi, which is more wins than losses, which is 8 wins, 7 losses. He'll keep his promotion.
Yes.
If he goes 7-8, which is Makekoshi, more losses than wins, he won't be demoted right away, but he'll be on the bubble the next tournament.
Yeah.
And if he does it again, he will be dropped to Sekewaki because we've got an Ozeki right now. I believe it's Goedo is that, and I'm trying to think. There's a phrase for it or a term for it, and I cannot remember what it is. Let me look it up real fast. Oh, what is it? He's Kadoban. He'll be Kadoban. They're Kado. That's what it is. It's Kadoban. It's an Ozeki who suffered Makekoshi in his previous tournament, and so will be demoted if he fails to score at least 8 wins. So we've got an Ozeki, and I believe it's Goeda who's Kadoban this time around. So if he drops 8, if he loses 8 matches, he's going to be demoted.
Yeah, so the pressure is on for him to perform at a high level from the start, because if he crosses that threshold, we know that he's losing his rank, and that's what makes sumo just so awesome. Is every match counts, and every match anyone can win. I don't think anybody expected Abi to win in the past show when he's facing a Yokozuna.
No.
Abi was not on that level, but he got him on the right day.
Well, Abi in the last Basho was, let me see if I can find it. I don't need the July. It's not showing anything. I can't pull it up right now, but I think he was Mega Shira 6 and he jumped up to Mega Shira 3. So, which is, a big jump. Yeah. And it's basically on the strength of him defeating Hakuho and having I think he was 9-6 or 10-5. I can't remember which. Basho. I mean, he was out of his mind.
Yeah.
During that Basho. He almost, he was on a run there at the beginning. I think he won his first 6 or 7 in a row. Kind of like what Tochinoshin did in July or January. Tochinoshin won his first 7, lost 1, and then lost the 8th day, I think, and then went on to win 7 more in a row.
In the May tournament, I know he lost 2 in a row. He only lost. Yeah, he lost to, because he had the first one was kind of an upset loss that he was expected to win. Then he faced Yokozuna the next night, and that's what dropped him out of the lead. But then he won his last match.
No, he lost his last. He lost his last match.
No, he won the last match because he would have forced a playoff if Hakuho had not lost the final day.
That's right.
Yeah, because it was up until the very final match of the Basho itself was when the tournament was decided.
In one sense, I felt, as I was watching that match, and in one sense, I felt Hakuho gave it to Kakuryu.
Exactly. I remember talking about that with you.
I even said it. I even said it.
Connection there.
I even said it in that thread that night. I said he just gave it to him.
Yeah. So, but that's what I love about sumo. It's a meritocracy. Wins matter. Every match counts. But also at the same time, there's so many side stories that pop up. Like you'll have an Abi that just kind of comes out of nowhere and just goes out of his mind. Tochinoshin was the talk of the Basho until he lost 2, and then he allowed the Yokozunas back into it. And then the tournament came down to the final day, and everybody was wondering whether to be a playoff. Would Tochinoshin get a chance to come back and win his second Basho of the year? And you have so many of these stories up and down the quote-unquote card. It's not necessarily called a card, but up and down the show, there's just so many different stories that pop up. If you have not checked it out, I would heartily recommend it. I think you'll really enjoy it because there's a lot to like, especially with the pageantry involved. I think that's an aspect of wrestling that WWE fans tend to lose these days because things just aren't treated with any reverence anymore. I think the reverence in sumo is an interesting aspect and a nice aesthetic value to it, but it's just fun. It's just fun to watch it, especially get into the chats and talk with people And, there's a learner's curve. It's a little steep, I will grant you, but you know what? It is worth the time and effort. So I would, as a newbie to the sport, I would hardly recommend people check out the opening tonight if they're up late enough to do so. It's well worth your time to invest in it and just kind of, sink your teeth into it because I think you'll like it. I really do.
Yeah. It's something different.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, hell, I stay up till almost 4 o'clock in the morning watching it live on stream. My time. Because that's how much I enjoy it.
Oh, same here. Yeah, and you do have to be up pretty late to catch it live. Now you can find some sources that'll have it on tape after the fact, but
if I don't catch it live, I watch the Grand Sumo highlights on NHK.com, and it's usually about 20 minutes. It's a 20-minute show that goes basically over about 9 or 10 matches. It doesn't cover the whole Makuchi division. It covers the main bouts, the big names. For sure, you'll see all of those matches. But it's great coverage. NHK does a wonderful job. And like you said, yeah, there is a language barrier, but you know what? I don't care. The excitement alone. I mean, I'm sitting there at work, middle of the night, and I was hooting and hollering when Tochinoshin wins. I'm going nuts. And I'm all by my damn self. So
it's definitely it's an experience that you can't fully appreciate it unless you've watched sumo. It's not something that's going to translate into other sports. It's its own thing. It's unique, and it's just something that you kind of have to watch to kind of appreciate. And I just can't say enough about it. I watched one night. And it was the junior level. So I wasn't even watching the main guys out there. But I was watching the junior competitors going at it, and I was hooked. And so,
that's my fault.
I blame you, Taker. You started another.
Oh well.
Oh God.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's I blame you. I blame you for that.
I'll gladly accept blame.
I need to. Unfortunately, I need to make an announcement. Do you mind if I have a second to relay some news?
Sure.
A couple of you I've been talking with over at Capeside Seats about a friend of mine. She needs your thoughts and prayers. I just got a message. She's in the ICU right now. She had pancreatitis, which is something that I know all too well, but she's developed sepsis, and so she's not doing good at all. They are really concerned about her. I just got a message from my friend. I'd asked for thoughts and prayers over at Capeside Seats, so please, the people that I talked to about that, just continue to keep her in your thoughts. That whole family's been through a really tough time this year, and I apologize to everybody listening. You might have noticed I kind of got really somber there at the end, but
that's okay.
She's it's not looking good at all. So I think I'll be making a trip up to the hospital here after we're done with the show today.
I'm sure that your friend will appreciate that. And my thoughts are with her. I'll be sending positive energy her direction to help.
I appreciate it. The thoughts and prayers are very much appreciated. She needs them right now, so it's taking a turn. So
yeah, and it looks like Mr. MDS did not make it today, and I got to dig up the list of all the people we plug, which I may not even do today. I might just skip some. I'll do the main plugs that we do. Like we got to plug, of course, Two Guys, One Sport, Crazy Chris Colgan and George Chavez. You catch them on Thursdays, 9 Eastern, 8 Central at night. Great show, great conversation. Those guys, they cover a lot of NJPW and a lot of the indie stuff. The one thing I'm kind of upset about right now is that we didn't get to something I wanted to talk about besides the sumo. It was yesterday's CMLL from Arena, Mexico.
Oh, I've been meaning to catch up on that. I heard that it was an excellent show yesterday.
Yes, it was an excellent show last night. Main event, ladies and gentlemen, and it's out there on the internet, was Los Ingobernables, Roche, and what's the other one's name now? I can't think of it. But Pentacero M was a heel last night. They took on, it was a 6-man, 2 out of 3 falls, and Pentagon and Caristico tore the house down. They were just killing each other the whole night. Oh.
CMLL is kind of, I feel like they're kind of having like a mini resurgence. So it was like a period where they kind of declined a little bit, but now it feels like they're kind of reestablishing themselves a little bit, which is interesting to see.
It is.
Especially when you have the connections with like Lucha Underground and, you know, Lucha Libre is kind of having a sort of kind of growing a little bit, I guess, in notoriety, kind of getting a little bit more exposure, you know, for the first time in a long time, which is good for the sport overall, especially the Mexican wrestling scene and, you know, with CMLL.
Yeah, it was Pentagon, El Cero, M. Rush, y El Terrible versus Caristico, Volador Jr., and El Valiente. 30 minutes of beat the hell out of one another. It was great. That's a, you know, that's 6 guys just beating the holy shit out of one another.
I mean, isn't it fair to say, outside of Undertaker, probably your next most popular wrestler, the wrestler you like the most, would be Pentagon Dark, I guess, right now?
Yeah. And if you look on my signature on Kate's side, it says sign Pentagon Dark now. You know, WWE sign Pentagon Dark now. He needs to he needs to be brought, but the thing about it is what they neuter him is the big question.
I think if he went to NXT, they would do right by him. The main roster, it's a 50-50 shot at best. I didn't think they could screw up Andrade Cien Almas, and it looks like they're doing a fine job of that on SmackDown.
Oh, La Sombra, a former member of
Los Ingobernables.
Yes, right. He wore the mask.
Yep. He really turned it around at NXT, and we had high hopes for him on the main roster, but apparently their big idea for him coming up was Sin Cara.
Yeah, well, Sin Cara got hurt, and then there was, well.
Well, Sin Cara should not have been his first feud anyway. Just letting you know.
Let's find out. Where can people find you?
You can catch me on the Twitter at RealDealBiff. We do, of course, the Connoisseurs of Wrestling podcast Sunday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be back this week. Special thanks to, everybody's thoughts and your well wishes over the last couple of weeks. I've been sick. I have my own health issues to deal with, and unfortunately, we missed last week because of that. But we will be back regular time tomorrow night. You can also catch me over at Kids on Seats in the daily and nightly thread, and that's generally it these days.
You can find me, of course, at Takers_Minion on the Twitter machine. You can find me in the daily and the nightly. But this week, the next 15 days, I'm going to be MIA from the nightly. Because I'm going to be watching the sumo. So
ready for all coming, folks. Get ready for it. Royal Rumble.
Yeah, Royal Rumble. This is the true Royal Rumble. But anyway, I've been the sumo takes precedence when it's on. Sorry, guys.
We should try to organize a late night watch, maybe for people that are hanging around the nightly threads.
I've tried that. There are some people that don't want anything to do with it. Like, I have no interest in it. It's boring. It's this. And like, boring. How can you don't understand? This is not boring. I think to them it's boring because they don't understand how it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's a simple concept. It's a simple concept. You know, look at the sumo match that Big Show had against Akebono back in the day.
Wow, that's way back in the day.
Well, yeah, Big Show thought it was going to be easy, and Akebono made him look like a little play toy. He said, he goes, doing that stuff. Big Show came out later and said, doing that stuff is hard. He said, I didn't realize just how much athletes they really were, and how strong they are. He thought they were just big and heavy. They're strong.
It's athletic. It requires agility, strength, technique, a little bit of luck.
And speed.
Yes, it's all the athletic attributes of the other sports in a gigantic package.
Well, there's nothing better. There's no better sound than there is at the Tachiai, where you have two men that weigh in excess of 350 pounds apiece colliding chest to chest.
That collision, that meat on
I mean,
meat.
And you hear this.
Yep, that's smack.
You hear it, and it's just like, oh, damn. Because they're moving fast from that. You would not think that the position they're in, they could go explode so quickly.
You know what sumo was like? This might be the best way to explain the emotion and the adrenaline rush of a sumo match when you get into it. Think the last 10 seconds of a college basketball game where the score is tied or your team is down by 1. That's what every sumo match is. Like that 5 to 10 seconds, and if you're extremely lucky, it goes longer than that. But it's like that emotion, like, oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? You know, and then, oh, crap, he's getting pushed back, or, you know, he's off balance. You know, it's like that sudden death. It's like sudden death every match.
That's right.
And it's bam, 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 bam. And you just keep, and you get that all night long throughout the entire basho.
I mean, I'm physically tired after watching it.
And not just because you're up until 4 a.m.
No, it's because my emotions have been up and down all night long. You know, I suffer the highest. I feel the highest of highs, and I suffer the lowest of lows with certain individuals. I mean, I'm watching some of the younger guys, and I've got my eye on some younger ones now. You know, I'm always looking to the future. I've got my favorites on the main, but I also look down in Juryo division and Sandame and all that to see what the new kids look like coming up. And I'm like, that one might do well. And sure enough, they move up.
My perspective is the World Cup is almost over. There's no games tomorrow. There's no race tomorrow if you're a NASCAR fan. There's no pay-per-view tomorrow if you're a wrestling fan. School's out for the summer. So grow a pair, stay up late, watch it, get hooked, and find a new sport to follow. You're going to never regret it. It's great.
All right. I seem to have found a list. You know, we always plug the K-Side affiliated podcasts of the Bitter Boys Club with Brent Brookhouse and Ethan Page. Not Your Demographic with Stunning Stella and Enigma Aaron. Keeping Up with the Kayfabe, Mark Riley, Jody May Esquire, and Jack King. And Bros Before Elbows, Anthony Farron and Tommy. We always have the unaffiliated podcast, members of Los Ingobernables, the podcast, Two Guys, One Sport with Crazy Chris Colgan and George Sabes. Those are the two main guys of Los Ingobernables, the podcast. We also promote Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling with William Fitzpatrick, also known as 14 Fitzpatrick. The Violent Wrestling Podcast with Ambrose Alley and Prince Mockley Lopez, who are normally they're not very regular. You know, check your local listings on that one. Match Fixing with Don Sell over on Cedar Bridge Media. Follow Don Sell at the Kusmato_Sal, or you can also follow Cedar Bridge Media both on Twitter. We have Wednesday Night Shooting with Tanja Rogers and Andrew M. Swift. We got The Love of Wrestling with Ms. Monroe and Company. The Ruthless Aggression Podcast done by Metal Matt. We have Something to Wrestle with Conrad Thompson and Bruce Pritchard. What Happened When with Conrad Thompson and Tony Schiavone. Also, we're also plugging the WWE podcast that Conrad Thompson and Bruce Pritchard do on WWE Network, the Something Else to Wrestle With podcast. All of those are all affiliated and promoted by this show. We would love to thank you for listening this morning. It's been about 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's time for us to go. I have to go get some sleep. And we will join you again next week for another edition. And I am expecting my partner, Mr. Dr. Senju, to be here next week.
Unless I have him liquidated, at which point we'll find you a new co-host. Oh, can we get a quick plug-in for Group D of the Connoisseurs of Wrestling Hall of Fame Fan Selection Series? The voting going through Monday.
Yes. And right now, currently, I believe Stone Cold Steve Austin's leading the way.
Yep. If you haven't voted, you still got a few days to do that. The final ballot will be out next week, so be sure to be looking for that on Cage Side Seats.
And if you guys complain about the final ballot, you got no one to blame but yourselves.
Yeah,
you pick the people.
It's your fault, assholes.
It's your fault. All right. See you tomorrow night there, Biff.
10-4, buddy. Thanks for having me on today.
All right. And this is episode 51. What the hell is happening? Which is what we've been talking about today. Until next week, I'll see ya.